Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. I'm Ulrika Sullivan. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach and a galactic astrologer. Welcome to this Aries full moon galactic astrology reading. What I do in these readings, I add an outer layer of fixed stars, celestial bodies, and galactic points to the traditional Western tropical astrology wheel. And this is to help us start to relate to our multidimensional self, starting to tap into our galactic heritage that so many of us are connected to. And in galactic astrology, we work with about 65 constellations out of the 88 and 4 galactic points. So what you'll see in this reading is a multidimensional perspective of the current energies active now in the Aries full moon. I'm excited to share this with you. Are you curious about your own galactic alignments? Go check out my galactic alignments reference guide. You can download it from the link below in the description box. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging with these readings. I love doing these readings for you. And this full moon is shining a light on you. In Aries, it's all about the self and a very emphasized energy around self-awareness and self-esteem. And I'll show you how that is linked into our fixed stars and constellations at this full moon. I will also share with you 3 key themes that I've pulled out from the energies of this full moon that I feel are really key for us at this point. And I will also share a couple of questions at the end tailored to this energy that's currently ongoing. Questions that you can work with individually to embody, apply the insights from this full moon. So let's get started, shall we? So here we have the chart for the Aries full moon at 6 degrees. And what I want to point out first is that this full moon is opposite the Super Galactic Center at 2 degrees of Libra, as you can see here. The orb for the Super Galactic Center is about 10 degrees. Because Super Galactic Center is one of the black holes that is driving the universe up to 50, 60, perhaps even 80 galaxies that the Super Galactic Center is involved in. And this full moon is opposite that. So the way I translate that is that at this time, at this full moon, we have access to universal wisdom coming from outside our solar system, outside the Milky Way. The Super Galactic Center is vast and includes universal wisdom from multiple galaxies. So there is a highlight here, and especially in the full moon here, Sun is conjunct the Super Galactic Center. So there's an immense highlight in at this time to bring in universal wisdom from elsewhere. And I will also say that since the Super Galactic Center is so central to this full moon, it's also a highlight on relationships. Libra is all about the 7th house relationships. So with that backdrop is that relationships and our own interactions and dynamics in relationships will be highlighted. The ruler of this full moon is Mars. And Mars, as you can see here, is aligned with the South Node and Haumea, a wide conjunction with Haumea, but certainly the South Node at 25 degrees is still a huge invitation for us to see how we can take action on releasing past patterns, relationship patterns mostly, but also this highlight from the Super Galactic Center at this time is that we are invited to relate and bring back lessons and insights from our galactic heritage. It spans so wide. It spans across galaxies, basically. So the invitation here from Mars is it becomes personal. It becomes, Mars is a personal planet. And Mars is the ruler of this full moon. So it is personal. It is about ourselves. But both the South Node and the Super Galactic Center in proximity here of the ruler of this full moon invites us to consider a bigger perspective, a multidimensional perspective to the past, and how we can bring in resolution, if you will. Mars wants to take action and wants us to be decisive. So the past is really coming in our face here. Before we go into the three themes of this full moon, I want to highlight that we've been talking about in previous readings about this kite formation that is going on in this chart and has been in place for a while. It's just that between each of the moons here, the focus is shifting, but the base is the same. And I'll walk you through what I mean with this. If you can identify here, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they form the basis of the direction that we're going into. And that is that what we call a talent trine between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Now, the point, so to say, of this kite this time, this full moon, is pointing towards Mercury. So Mercury is the highlight of this kite, still maintained at 20 degrees of Virgo. So that's, I just wanted to mention that last new moon, for example, it was the new moon itself that was the focus of this kite, the tip of the kite. But this time it's Mercury. And there are some really strong messages for us here in this full moon that I will get to. But all the qualities of Mercury and Virgo is coming to a highlight here through this kite. I also want to mention that Mars is aligned with Arcturus, fixed star and constellation of Bootes is still in a very much of a highlight and guiding group consciousness. Our Arcturus is a fixed star, but it's also a consciousness, a group consciousness, if you will, with high vibrating wisdom that is very much interacting with Earth and our solar system, and have done for a long, long time. And the fact that the South Node, the ruler of this full moon, and Haumea is in this proximity to the Arcturus energy is speaking volumes in terms of how important Arcturus wisdom is, or Arcturus consciousness is at this time for the direction we're going in, and to support also a release of our past energies that we are destined to move on from. So the first theme here is involving Mars as the ruler of this full moon. And here in this chart, I have pointed out Mars at 21 degrees and 27 minutes. First, I want to mention Lyra, the Ring Nebula M57. And Mars aligned here to Arcturus is in a square with the Lyra Nebula. And I want to show you here the Lyra Nebula and talk a little bit about why the Lyra Nebula is so important. The Lyra Nebula, isn't it beautiful? It looks like an eye. It's like almost this full moon is staring at us to say, okay, hey, it's you that are on the spot here in this full moon. And Lyra is the Ring Nebula of Lyra, has a history of an immense shift and an immense energy shift. Lyra Nebula is a multidimensional portal. And often when a nebula is formed is at the end state of a fixed star. So what you see here in that eye is really gases and dust, and it's the fixed star itself is actually at the very center of this eye, very small compared to this dust cloud. And it's in a lifetime of a fixed star, this is what happens. So if we look at the symbolism of this engagement of Mars in a square, which is often a, I call it a growth opportunity, but it's a highlight of growth. It is at the tail end of a fixed star, Lyra Nebula here, lifetime, if you will. And it's also Mars's conjunction here pretty much with the south node. There's symbolism in here that we are at the tail end of an very long sweep of energy in our galaxy that is bound to shift. And the Lyra Nebula's galactic history is one of, I would say, takeover. And what I mean with that is this multidimensional portal was seen in galactic history as a very attractive way to time travel or travel intergalactically. So eventually, Lyra Nebula was taken over by negative forces, and that experience, many souls were in this energy that are incarnated on Earth now, that has the soul memory of this immense, massive exodus, if you will, that happened. And it's an energetic memory. The square is inviting us to regain hope and trust and bring us back to a heart-centered leadership. Mars is also making a trine to Orion-Bellatrix, as you can see there at the top of the chart, and at 21 degrees of Gemini. Here we have Orion constellation. I've highlighted Bellatrix here. It really is the arm of the warrior here. And Bellatrix is associated with masculine energy, Mars, Mercury type of quality to it, but it's also very an energy that is decisive, action-oriented, really sometimes violent, actually. So this trine between Mars, who's in a masculine energy in itself and very action-oriented, is really flowing here between Orion and Mars-Arcturus. It is a suggestion for us to consider how much action is healthy for us in our self-expression. The second part of this first theme is also involving Mercury, that highlight in the kite that we were talking about. Mercury is at 20 degrees of Virgo and is making a trine to the Lyra Ring Nebula M57. So the opposite energy here, it's a flowing energy between Virgo, Mercury, and Lyra Nebula here in Capricorn. And also, you can see that square between Mercury and Orion-Bellatrix is also very active here in this full moon. And taken together, it builds a very much a focus on Orion-Bellatrix, the Lyra Ring Nebula. And there is an invitation here to really consider and balance out this strong masculine energy from Orion with this polarity shift that was taking place at the end of a star's lifetime, basically as the nebula is formed when a star is towards the end of a lifetime. That Lyra Ring Nebula, that energy of invitation to regain hope and trust and come back to unconditional love, basically the origin of where we came from. And as I usually also bring in, this is all happening in the third decan, which is associated with our spiritual multidimensional self, if you will. So that's suggesting to us that considering our personal self-awareness, now a full moon in Aries is about self-awareness, both when it comes to Mercury associated things such as communication, learning. What can I learn about myself here? And my boundaries around taking action and being self-empowered. If Mars here as the ruler is really pointing his arrow to us and shining the light through the support of this Arcturus group consciousness that is really showing us what is the next high vibrating energy that we need to bring in and replace all of this polarity that we are currently experiencing. Mercury and Mars here, and in collaboration with that Arcturus consciousness, is asking us to look at our dynamic in relationships. Mars, as the ruler of this full moon, is firmly grounded here in Libra and really linked into the Arcturus consciousness. And it's all about how we can show up differently in relationships, in dynamic with other humans, and in dynamic with any of our interactions that we have. Reminded by the Orion-Bellatrix memories from the Orion constellation, which is often energy of strong, extreme polarity, but also Lyra, that has our human DNA galactic heritage very much associated with our earthly, our humanoid race here on Earth. What our soul learned in these experiences, both Lyra and Orion constellations, are very much associated with human race, galactic heritage. There are some strong memories, soul memories here that we are asked to look at this full moon, and bring in even more, a higher level of self-awareness. So here we have the second theme. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of interaction between Mars, Venus, Chiron, but also the fixed stars Orion-Bellatrix again, and Lyra Nebula, the Ring Nebula M57. And I'll walk you through what I see here. So Mars, and aligned to the Arcturus consciousness, is in a sextile with Venus here in Leo at 22 degrees. And Venus is still in her prime, if you will, surrounded by and actually conjunct Juno, asteroid Juno. And just a quick bit about Juno here. Juno is the asteroid that has to do with partnerships. Simply, it has to do with marriage, but it doesn't have to. It's actually any partnership. So here we come into the focus of relationships and dynamics with our relationships again, but through the lens of Venus. So Mars and Venus here, supported by Arcturus energy, are really coming into a space where balance can happen. 22 degrees of Venus for Venus and 21 degrees of Libra for Mars. There is a balance here at this full moon between these feminine and masculine energies. Now, Venus is making a sextile to Orion-Bellatrix, Orion-Bellatrix at 21 degrees of Gemini. And it goes further than that, because Orion-Bellatrix is making a sextile to Chiron TauCeti is aligned with Chiron at 18 degrees of Aries, almost exact to the degree and minute here. And Chiron is really reminding us with this alignment to TauCeti of this warrior energy, the masculine energy of striving, but also considering the wounds that are created within our soul memories when we have had to have galactic lives where we had to strive and fight. So this sextile between Orion-Bellatrix and TauCeti are really a reminder of that. It's important to be our own warrior in many ways, to stand up for what we believe. It's a signature of this full moon that masculine energy of the warrior type is, and the action taking that comes with that is has to be balanced. And if we go to Venus and Juno here in a sextile to Mars, aligned with Arcturus, this high level wisdom that is actually bringing in our higher self, if you will, is that reminder that the masculine and feminine needs to be balanced within ourselves to reach that union, that unity consciousness that we are asked and invited to move into next. And both Mars aligned with Arcturus and Chiron aligned with TauCeti is pointing in squares. So it's a T-square here between Mars, Chiron, and Lyra Ring Nebula M57. And so Lyra Ring Nebula is really bringing us a wisdom at this time on what this full moon is all about. So here we have the third theme that I want to highlight, and that's a powerful one. We start with Saturn. Saturn is now at the very first degrees in retrograde in Pisces here. And what's happening is that Saturn is opposite now, almost exact to Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith is aligned with Hydra constellation, fixed star Alphard. It's been for a while, but all what Saturn and Black Moon Lilith aligned here, Saturn in an opposition and Black Moon Lilith in a conjunction to Leo, fixed star Regulus, is that it's time to step into that courage to take charge of our own self-awareness and progress in life. And you know, Hydra Alphard also in alignment here and in conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. Hydra is located at 28 degrees of Leo, Regulus at 29 degrees of Leo. It's a cluster of power, suggesting to us that, again, our lives are meant to be lived from our life force, from our creativity, from our joy, from our, passions in life. But it takes courage. And Saturn is now in a position to make that claim in opposition to Regulus here. And I want to show you this powerful picture of the lion. This is the energy that is suggested by Saturn now. And now it's becoming real because Saturn is in alignment with Black Moon Lilith, the unbridled, unapologetic energy, suggesting to us that it's time to sense our freedom and live from that space. So, and here you see the Leo constellation. I highlighted Regulus there. So powerful. And if we go back here, the growth opportunity is the squares that you see in this chart, pointing to the Pleiades at 0 degrees of Gemini and aligned with Sedna as well. And here we have the new Earth energy guided by the alignment here to our guides from Pleiades. This is what we are suggested to really bring in and consider now at this full moon in Aries. It's all about us as individual souls. And Saturn is really powerful here in this opposition to Regulus. It really is a powerful push in this full moon to step into that new Earth energy facilitated by Sedna, guided by the alignment to Pleiades here. So, wow, this is the punch we need, right? So in summary, this full moon in Aries is really a focus on ourselves and how we take leadership in our own life. Do we want to keep interacting with our past polarities, our past soul memories from Orion and from Lyra? Or do we want to tap into our inner Regulus, our inner Black Moon Lilith, or our inner Hydra with that Kundalini life force and grow into the new Earth energy guided here by Sedna, Pleiades, and Saturn is really here to awaken our desire for that. So the ruler Mars is here to help us take action with the square to Lyra and the trine to Orion. It's a collaborative energy, but asking us to flow with the memories that we have, our soul memories that we have. It's either likely from Lyra or from Orion or both. So it's this encouragement in Libra to look at the dynamics of our relationships, which will show us what we need to learn next. Mercury in that tip of the kite, also interacting with Orion-Bellatrix and the Lyra Nebula M57 at this full moon, and the collaboration between Mars and Venus, almost 21 degrees and 22 degrees in that sextile. It's inviting us to balance our masculine and feminine for the benefit of experiencing relationships and heal relationships in a much different way than we've been potentially trying to do in the past. This is all fueled by the full moon's interaction and alignment with the Super Galactic Center at 2 degrees of Libra. This is an invitation to see our lives more multidimensionally, take a bigger perspective, and have our lives guided by a bigger perspective and maintain that interaction between our solar system and many, many galaxies around us is facilitated through, for example, that multidimensional portal of the Lyra Nebula, intergalactic travel, a stargate that we're invited to consider the learnings from. I also want to give you a little tidbit about what's coming up, because we have some really powerful eclipses coming up, and everything from here is going to get expanded. The reason I say that is that there is another driver in the universe that you may have heard me talk about before, the Shapley Attractor. The Shapley Attractor is going to be having a central role in the eclipses coming up. So the solar eclipse on October 14th is at 21 degrees of Libra. And yes, that's exactly where Mars is located now at this full moon. So this is a powerful lead-in to October 14th solar eclipse, because the solar eclipse will be then trine Orion and square Lyra. So the theme continues. The full moon partial lunar eclipse on October 28th is so powerful as well. And I want to highlight that, give you a little nugget from that eclipse coming up, because the full moon is opposite the Shapley Attractor, exact that time. So, wow, look forward to that forecast, I'll tell you. So here I want to give you some questions to work with, tailored to this energy of the full moon in Aries. The first question is, how can you regain the sense of hope, the sense of safety in your life if you're struggling with something right now? Because this full moon is really suggesting us to become self-aware of that resistance that we may feel inside sometimes. And how can you become less reactive? You know, that warrior energy, that bold, reactive energy associated with Orion, but also with TauCeti. How can you bring it to a bigger perspective in situations where you may be under pressure? With Venus in a sextile with Mars and the actress consciousness, it's clear invitation to how can we balance that masculine, feminine side of ourselves better. And a question that I have for you, where do you feel in your life that you may be imbalanced? Where does your masculine side come through in your life more so sometimes than the feminine side of you? How can that be more balanced? Also, it's important to ask us why, because that yang side, which is more the action-oriented side of ourselves, and the yin side, which is the more receptive side of us, how can we start to understand how we got to that imbalance? Because many of us are dealing with a very much an imbalance, favoring logic, which is more of the masculine energy, rather than the heart energy, which is more the yin, the feminine. So it's important to understand how we got there, because then we can start balancing that masculine and feminine in a different way. The third question is, of course, that powerful T-square between Saturn, opposite Regulus, Hydra, and conjunct Black Moon Lilith, and that beautiful interaction between the Pleiades and Sedna that is a long time guidance for us here on Earth in terms of what the new energy, the new Earth energy is all about. And here we have Sedna at 0 degrees, aligned with Pleiades at 0 degrees of Gemini. It's all about how we can bring that into focus in our lives and let that be the driver more so than this polarized energy that we may experience. And lastly, the Regulus influence here is going to increase through the eclipse season. How can you step into your full potential? How can you bring on your roaring lion with the courage and wisdom that a lion has? So I love that Regulus and Archangel Raphael with his healing green ray is guiding us at this point. So enjoy that. Hope you enjoy these questions to work with. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. All the new subscribers that have found me recently. Are you curious about your own galactic alignments? Go check out my Galactic Alignments reference guide. You can download it from the link below in the description box. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging with these readings. I love doing these readings for you. And I hope you have a really great full moon in Aries. Take care, because we're in for a ride with the eclipses coming up. Bye.